It's a foggy day in southern Manitoba. We're a few miles south of Crystal City at the Canada-US border crossing at the beginning of what we're calling the Sunshine Highway Relic Run, a group of at least 15 antique cars that is going to recreate a drive from over 100 years ago. Back in those days, highways weren't marked. And so the people who promoted the Sunshine Highway came up with their own system. A yellow sign with a giant letter S, of course, for sunshine. And the vehicles participating in today's run are all sporting a recreation of that original sign. The Sunshine Highway was a route connecting Brandon, Manitoba with Sioux City, Iowa, a distance of about 700 miles or 1,100 kilometers. Proponents of the highway hoped it would stimulate tourism and trade between Manitoba and the United States, and they had a grand vision that the highway would eventually extend all the way to Mexico. Although the project got underway in the United States in 1916, Canada was immersed in the First World War, so work here did not begin until the early 1920s. The idea of the Sunshine Highway was that it would attract tourists and their associated dollars to communities along the route, so each town or municipality was asked to chip in to help with upkeep of the Sunshine Highway. In return for this municipal investment, the Sunshine Highway Association published a route book that listed, for places along the way, where motorists could find such amenities as campgrounds and hotels, stores and restaurants, good fishing and hunting spots, and garages for emergency repairs. We've arrived in Crystal City, our first stop, and the crowd is incredible. We've got way more people here than I expected. The road so far has been fabulous. In fact, well, better than we could expect. It's a nice, smooth, paved road. The tough part starts now, because here's where we leave the pavement. We head out on gravel, and that's what the Sunshine Highway would have been. In fact, large sections of it wouldn't have even been graveled. It would have just been plain prairie dirt. We're going to be leaving out of town. We're going to cross the wonderful bridge here in Crystal City, one of only 5 remaining bowstring bridges. Beautiful bridge, over 100 years old. We're going to cross that and then head across country, making our way to Brandon. So if any of you are interested in following along, I think if nothing else, you're going to come away with an experience of how highways used to be, and therefore when you drive down Highway 34, you're going to go, well, you know, it's not that bad. The response we're getting in the communities has been incredible. You know, they've served us lemonade, they've come out in droves. You know, I think to get a real good sense of this, I should send a drone up in the air here. By mid-morning, we pulled into Boulder and enjoyed a warm welcome by an appreciative crowd. People were keen to talk to the drivers and have a close look at the old cars. In the 1920s, highways in southern Manitoba were primitive, sometimes just an unmarked trail over the virgin prairie. The important roads might have a cursory sprinkling of gravel to improve traction, but most could quickly turn into a deeply rutted quagmire after a heavy rain. No wonder that only the most adventurous motorists would try to drive the Sunshine Highway. Leaving Boulder, we drove north for several miles before making a short stop so everyone could see the Frelsis Lutheran Church at Grund. Believed to be the oldest standing Icelandic Lutheran church in Canada, built in 1889, the building is beautifully preserved inside and out. We were given a quick tour by local volunteers, then it was back on the road. People often ask, what's the ride like in these old cars? Well, the reality is they're driving on the roads for which they were designed. The leaf springs actually go the opposite way to a modern vehicle. They go across the vehicle, which means they tend to rock a little bit, but they give a really smooth ride on even the bumpiest country road. The gravel roads were very dry, and as a result, they threw up billowing clouds of dust to surround all the cars. The oldest cars had no side windows, so their drivers and passengers had no recourse but to tolerate the choking dust. We arrived at Glenboro at midday for a well-deserved rest and lunch, and encountered our biggest crowds yet. We talked to the drivers to see how they were making out. How's the dust on those gravel roads?
Yeah, it's not too bad. We got the windows down today, so yeah, there's a bit of dust swirling around in there, but not too bad.
And what kind of speed are you managing with the car?
We seem to be averaging about 25 to 30 today.
Miles per hour?
Yeah, miles per hour. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Our first stop after leaving Glenboro was not actually part of the original Sunshine Highway route, but it was just too good to pass up. We wanted to take the rare opportunity to cross a river by ferry. At one time, ferries were common all over Manitoba, but they have nearly all been replaced by bridges. The last one is near the village of Stockton, and several of the car drivers were keen to ride across the Assiniboine River and back before returning to the Relic Run. River crossing now, what volume of vehicles do you take across the river?
In a busy time, like harvest time, 20 crossings a day, up to 20 crossings a day. When it's less when the weather is bad. When like now it's kind of holidays, more people come to cross and they leave here for a canoe trail, for example, more tourist attraction.
At one time, when cars like ours were traveling the province, the way they crossed rivers was by ferries, just like this one. Of course, over time, they replaced most of those ferries with bridges because that was simply more efficient. And in time, well, the ferries all disappeared, except for the one here at Stockton. We pulled into Wawanesa and lined the cars up in a row, introducing each driver and their car. It was our last stop before reaching our final destination in Brandon, yet the drivers still seem to be having a great time. So Charlie, how's the drive going so far?
Great.
Cars running okay?
Mediocre.
Mediocre.
At times it's really good, and at times it's not so good, but we're a hope and a prayer, and we'll be there.
Now I know that there's no windows on the sides of the crew cabin. Is the dust bad?
Not that bad.
Really?
No.
Because I've been driving in a car with windows in it. It's bad for me. So.
Well, I do have this. I didn't install it for this ride, but I put them on if it's raining.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, we'll be fine.
And the car running fine?
Pretty good. Yeah. For the most part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not getting too hot.
Oh no, that's the least of my worries.
Really?
No, it's cool and good.
Good.
Yep.
And how's the car running? Is it smooth?
It's been running really well. Yeah, we're really happy with it. We've had this car since it was bought new by my uncles, and it's just got passed through the family over the years.
So this car has been in your family for probably close to 100 years.
Yeah, 98 years.
Wow.
My oldest brother has the original bill of sale for it. He's actually the true owner of the car. I just get the luxury of driving it because he hurt his leg and it's a little difficult for him to get in and out.
Driving an antique car is not at all like driving a modern car. So you might think of yourself as a good driver and you still couldn't drive a car like this one. The pedals are often completely different. I mean, there's handles you in places that you don't expect the handles to be. So the experience of driving an antique car, one that is completely unique. It was now late afternoon and we were about an hour from Brandon. The roads remained solid but dry. It was with considerable relief that we left the last gravel road behind and entered Brandon on dust-free pavement. We approached the beautiful Dominion Exhibition Building in Brandon with a mixture of exhilaration and relief. The cars lined up in a row and the drivers piled out to be welcomed by the mayor of Brandon and a host of eager Brandonites. All but one of the cars that started the morning at the U.S. border had made it the entire way to Brandon under their own power. There were no major mechanical problems along the way, not even a flat tire. It was a great day. The weather, well, it was reasonably cooperative. It wasn't quite as sunny as I thought the Sunshine Highway might have been, but the road itself actually was remarkably good. I think the only thing I might have say about this is that it was really, really dusty. And of course, I had the benefit of being in a nice air-conditioned car with windows that rolled all the way up. I can just imagine what it would be like in a car like this. But again, the whole point of this ride is to simulate what it might have been like to drive on Manitoba streets 100 years ago. Well, that's the way it would have been. There wouldn't have been pavement. You would have to have gotten used to the choking dust because it was a fact of life. So if nothing else, the drivers today had what I think is a truly authentic driving experience. Everyone agreed that the Sunshine Highway Relic Run of 2024 had been a rousing success, and that its participants had had a unique experience that will last a lifetime. It had engaged 3 generations of one family, driving 3 antique cars. Our youngest Relic runner was 5 years old, and her cousin, a 16-year-old, drove the entire day by himself in his grandpa's Ford Model A. Unfortunately, the Sunshine Highway did not develop in the way that its organizers had hoped. In 1927, the Brandon City Council, that had been one of the major Canadian sponsors of the highway, withdrew its annual grant of $180 over complaints that the route was not being maintained properly and that small municipalities were not paying their fair share. By 1929, references to the highway in Manitoba newspapers had ceased. It would be nearly 100 years before Manitobans would hear about the Sunshine Highway again, as news of our Relic Run began to circulate in early 2024. Participants in the Sunshine Highway Relic Run of 2024 are already talking about plans for next year to recreate another unique experience of Manitoba drivers from 100 years ago.